Hi, everybody. It's Jean Humbrecht with Humbrecht Law, criminal and traffic defense attorney in Manassas, Virginia. Welcome to my Wednesday local business spotlight. Today, I have a special guest, Tricia Sutherland with Imperfect to a T Yoga. Tricia, I don't think I've ever had anybody on before at all in your field. The closest thing would be somebody that owned a fitness studio, but what you do is very, very different from fitness. I mean, it is fitness, but they're very different. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you to tell everybody a little bit about your business. And while you do that, I'm going to share our video in some different Facebook groups. And
Okay.
then we'll just have a conversation and I'll ask you some questions. And anybody that's watching, feel free to type your questions in the chat. So Tricia, tell us about your business and how you got into it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jean, so much for inviting me to talk. I'm so grateful to be here um, and to have this opportunity to just share what I do. I am a mobile yoga teacher. So I have mats, will travel, I'll bring yoga to you. Um, I got into it. Interestingly, I kind of did yoga here and there sporadically throughout my adult life. As a complement to running or other exercise, and never really got hooked until a friend of mine invited me. Actually, it was 6 years ago, I think yesterday or the day before, to transform power yoga in Haymarket. And we did a heated practice, and it was just amazing. I had a really great experience. Walked out the door and said, I want to teach that. That's how good it was. And that was 6 years ago. I've been practicing quite a bit and studying. I studied with TPY in Haymarket. They are my teachers. So if you're looking for brick and mortar, I can't say enough about them. I'm very grateful for their tutelage as well. And over time, I graduated from their teacher training program, and I do still teach there. 2 classes a week, and then sub in when needed if I can. But I started my own mobile yoga practice or business, just bringing the show on the road. So just spreading the light wherever it's needed. And I started that probably March of last year, so I'm less than a year into it. Although I had the LLC for about 2 years before I started.
Okay. So when I met you, it was very shortly after you started, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I cast a very wide net in the last year in terms of styles of yoga that I'm qualified to teach, that I delivered, and then also where I landed. I was fortunate enough to teach for several months in my own neighborhood community center, several days a week. I have also done yoga out in Loudon for Forever Young Loudon there, and did yoga on the plaza at Cascades Overlook Plaza for mental health awareness and then men's health awareness, and just combined that with a business opportunity or business promotion for Forever Young Loudon. So that's one way I've been working with my business, is to collaborate with other businesses for their promotions if they are, especially if they're particularly in the health field or wellness field. I also started offering guided meditations at my home. And in the community, I did a guided meditation for a nonprofit for one of their celebrations. They just wanted me to lead their celebration off with a guided meditation for their group. That's Purple Runway, and they are a nonprofit that does amazing work in Prince William County and beyond, for victims and survivors of domestic violence. So I did a fundraiser for Secret Brook Stables to get sand in their horse ring. And they do a lot of work for veterans. So it's just kind of, I mean, these are just a couple of samples of things that I've done in the last year, where you can see that yoga can fit into a lot of different places and spaces, to collaborate, to fundraise, to, just bring the light of the practice to other people.
Well, made some notes based on a couple things you said, but I wanted to ask you first. I've done yoga, and I've done basically every type of fitness there is out there except Tough Mudder. That one kind of scares me. um, so I'm familiar, but not incredibly familiar with the different styles. So yoga might seem intimidating to people that have never done it. So
Sure.
can you
Yeah.
explain to people, I mean, really what yoga is, because they might have misconceptions, and then what the different styles are, because you mentioned you're trained in different styles.
Sure. Thank you for that. That's important because that is a question that I get a lot. Is what does that mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and when people talk about you may have taken a class online or at a studio or where the teacher has, unfortunately said, well, this is a thousands-year-old practice, and they're talking about down dog. Down dog is not 1,000 years old, right? I mean, that the practice of yoga is really about connecting with the self, and really started in and is rooted in stillness more so than movement.
Mhm.
So, man, there are countless styles and schools and lineages that you can pull from. And I my teaching is rooted in vinyasa and the lineage of BKS Iyengar yoga, and I teach several different styles within that lineage. So, um, not to get too deep into it, because I really can talk about this for hours because I love to talk about it.
Yeah.
Um, but I do teach beginners yoga, in which the class is paced so we can talk through postures and movement. I teach chair yoga, which is using the chair as a prop to support the practice. And I can say that my first chair yoga practice, I was impressed with how much I actually sweat. So anything that I teach, you get out of it what you put into it. So chair yoga, many people associate with, um, elderly or surgical recovery or what have you. It really can be a practice for somebody who is completely able-bodied. So I shouldn't be limited to that. You really can get a great workout in chair yoga. I teach gentle yoga, which is a style of vinyasa. And to explain vinyasa,
Mhm.
vinyasa is just connecting breath and movement. So that is the main point of the flow of the practice is when you move this way, you inhale. When you move that way, you exhale. And you're guided through the practice to breathe and connect the movement with the breath. Gentle yoga is maybe a slower pace with lots of options. Vinyasa is a little bit more dynamic, more up and down off the floor,
Mhm.
but is also you're given a lot of options, so it can be an all levels practice. Um, then two more other styles would be one yoga nidra guided meditation is stillness. It is really a guided meditation, but again, coming from that original foundation of yoga. And restorative yoga, which is where you are supported by props like bolsters. I have one right here. You can see it. And blankets, and to be in a posture for anywhere from 6 to 20 minutes to support you. And so you can relax into the posture. You might move in an hour, you might move 4 to 6 times. So I think that covers the styles that I teach. But I also offer private sessions, one-to-one, I'll come to you, small group sessions for restorative, just because there are only so many props that one
Mhm.
Honda Fit can carry.
Yeah.
and half day retreats if you want to mix it up for a smaller group. I did one of those for a group of physician's assistants out in Loudoun County. They wanted to do a gentle yoga session and then followed that by a yoga nidra guided meditation. So it was kind of like a half day, couple of hours of just being gentle movement and then guided to a restful state.
Okay. Well, that leads me to actually a couple more questions. But first, because I was making a lot of notes. First, and I can't read my writing. The guided meditations. Again, I think I've never done that, so I have no idea. Explain it to me like I'm an idiot because I don't know. And then another reason I'm asking that is because people again might have like a misconception about what that is. So what can people expect in a guided meditation, and what is the benefit of it? What does it do for you?
So great question. Thank you. Specifically, Yoga Nidra is a longer guided meditation to bring you to what is considered a wakeful sleep state. So, a wakeful dream state, sorry. So it's that there are many different types of meditation too. So you can get an app and get Calm and get Insight Timer and
Mhm,
get a 10-minute meditation. Yoga Nidra takes longer to get
mhm.
you into the appropriate brain waves for a wakeful dream state. So it brings you, you're guided to come to a state of, right before you fall asleep, where you know that you're awake, but you're starting to dream, where you're consciously in
Yes,
that space.
yes, and I think I
It
might be talking in my sleep.
yeah, so a lot of people do. Um, you're there and you're suspended in that space. So the concept of this is truly something that is passed on orally for many years before it was actually written down. This way to guide people there. You are suspended there, and there's good science to back and studies to show that cortisol levels decrease, blood pressure decreases, all of these things that we get from just being in a calm state. So you're taken out of fight and flight. You're held in rest and digest. So you are but you're awake. Now, do people fall asleep? Absolutely. They snore, they fall asleep, but you can go in and out of consciousness in this state. I have done it multiple times and fallen asleep, and multiple times and stayed awake. So more often than not, if you fall asleep, it's because you needed it, and a lot of us need that. So,
Yeah. Mhm.
but interestingly enough, one of the physicians that I work with, I am also a registered nurse. She has severe rheumatoid arthritis, which prevents her from getting a fitful sleep at night. So
Wow.
midday, she does yoga nidra. Western medicine has rebranded this as NSDR, which maybe people have heard of, which is non-sleep deep rest. So the Western world, not necessarily Western medicine. But she does that because 30 minutes in a yoga nidra state is considered the equivalent of 4 hours of sleep.
Hmm.
So she does it as a midday kind of recharge, and I think you can clearly see the benefits of doing something like that.
Okay, that sounds interesting. I might have to check that out sometime. But don't judge me if I talk in my sleep.
I won't. I won't. If people fall asleep, I let them. If it's a group and they start snoring, I let people know before they start. I just kind of might touch their toe or, kind of bring them back if they're really snoring, and because that can be disruptive to other people.
Oh yeah, that's true. It
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, a couple things I wanted to ask about specifically, and I have four things, and they're all completely different. Sorry. You mentioned hot yoga earlier. Can you tell people what that is? You're the expert. I've done it once. So can you tell people what that is? And again, like they might have misconceptions about it, and how that helps how it's different from regular yoga and how it helps the body.
Sure.
Even if you
Oh,
don't
yeah.
teach it, because I know you know what it is.
Yeah, no, well, so a lot of people associate it with Bikram
Mhm.
yoga, which is not what I teach. It's what I teach at Transform Power Yoga. They have heated and unheated classes 7 days a week, and so a heated class at that space is a goal of 95 degrees in the room. And let me tell you, when you walk in on a day like this, it feels amazing. It
Mhm.
feels like, one of the teachers always says, like a warm hug. And then 55% humidity is a goal too. So it's not just heat, it's also humidity.
Mhm.
The reason why it's beneficial is number one, you're starting off warm already. And, so we often move and then stretch and warm up before we exercise. You'll see people kind of running in place or what have you. It's to warm the muscles up. So when you do stretch, you're not stretching a cold muscle.
Mhm.
So your muscles and your body are already, just because of the environment, they are prepared. And you're less likely to sustain an injury, but you can also go deeper into your stretches
Okay.
because you're more prepared. Another benefit of it is that you sweat more.
Mhm.
You do burn more calories. You learn to, many people feel a sense of, can, and although I didn't, I loved it. Some people can feel a sense of being overwhelmed by the heat. You
Mhm.
learn to breathe through that. You learn to breathe to slow down your heart rate. You learn to rest, and you learn to work through those challenging times. And the beautiful part of that is that you can really take that from that space and off the mat into your life. There's so many things about yoga that you can do. So when you feel that sense of being overwhelmed, you turn to your breath and you practice that again and again and again in a heated space. So if you're met with stressors outside of that space, it becomes almost your knee-jerk reaction is to breathe versus leaning into the stress and
Mhm.
engaging in conflict. So that is another benefit, of course. And then it really you're thirsty. You hydrate because you sweat
Yeah.
so much. You turn more towards those foods that will nourish that as well, and like fruits and vegetables. So your body just naturally shifts to go towards healthier nourishment and
Mhm.
hydration.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Before I ask my other questions, I want to give shout outs to a couple people that are commenting and liking the post. Thank you, Sharon Fontanella. Sharon, actually, Trisha, I don't know if you know her, but she co owns American Dringer Krav Maga in Manassas with her husband.
Oh, wow.
And Sherry Wernicke, I know from networking out in Winchester. She and her daughter, I'm not going to do this justice, but they have a company where they kind of do the DNA your DNA testing to find out, like, what foods are bad for you,
Oh,
and the type of
yeah.
exercise that you should do and all that stuff. So I'm glad they're watching. Everything's kind of tying together.
Yeah, and a lot of interest in Krav Maga too. I'm really very interested in that. So I'll have to check that out offline later.
Well,
Yeah.
Trisha, let's go sometime because nobody ever wants to go with me, and I love it.
I will totally go.
Awesome. All right. See,
100%.
Sharon, we got you some business.
Yes.
So my next question, let's start with this one. As you know, even before COVID, but more so with COVID, a lot of things, a lot of trainings in every different type of field have become more available online for people, whether they're free or whether they pay for it. Can you explain, and I'm asking this for a reason, can you explain why it would be more beneficial to have an actual, like, in-person instructor for something like yoga or really anything as opposed to watching an online video?
Sure. Well, I'll be honest with you. I practice online. I take classes online in real time too, but I'm well practiced,
Right.
right? So
Right.
so that's one thing. I do think it's very challenging for a yoga teacher to um, for a beginner to learn online if you're learning live, for a yoga teacher to really see. Not most students don't set up their camera So you can see the entire mat, the entire body. You're often looking at the bottom of somebody's feet or their ceiling. But I mean, I'm a big proponent of online just because sometimes you can't get to the studio.
Yeah.
So it's lovely to be able to do it online. But there are a lot of disadvantages in terms of safety too.
Mhm.
You know, you want to be able to correct people's postures and it's difficult to see that as a teacher.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that it's impossible. I do practice online, but I feel like the in-person advantage is that the teacher can see you better,
Mhm.
can speak to what your body is doing and offer uh, adjustments, you know, verbally. And then also there's that community component of practicing next to somebody.
Mhm.
You know, breath is powerful, and you know, we couldn't be near each other for so long. It's so lovely to practice with somebody else, and then you get to see what other people are doing because options are offered. You might not know what the more advanced option is, but you see somebody do that option and you're like, okay, that's what that is.
Mhm.
You know, breathing together in unison too is and moving together is really you can feel the support of the breath and the movement of the other people, even though you're on your mat and it's your practice, you can feel the energy in the room. So
Mhm.
there's that big energetic component of being in person too.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And well, for a number of reasons, I like going to classes at the gym and I go to burn boot camp. Well, I mean, one, I get a lot out of it, and two, I feel like it motivates me more than if I was at home,
Right.
just doing whatever type of workout. And there have been times that I didn't know that I was doing something wrong, and the instructor corrected me. And it's important because if you're doing something like lifting weights or whatever, you don't want to hurt yourself,
Right.
and you don't know what you're doing wrong because you're not the instructor. So I get a lot of benefit out and like you said the social aspect of it, I get a lot of benefit out of the classes and being around other people and having an instructor that can just very easily even really with the look of the eye or just like a quick little thing correct you without even embarrassing you, because that's another thing too, like instructors don't most of them don't act the way that people think they act or that TV shows, they're not yelling at you and saying, "Come on, Jane, lift heavier weights." Like, no, they're actually trying to help you and they're not going to embarrass you. They actually want you to do well and get the most out of it, in my opinion.
Well, and if I see a student in the classroom or in the in the practice doing something where I say, check in with your knee, make sure it's aligned and your knee isn't too far inward or outward. I may see that in one student, but that correction applies for everybody. You
Right.
know, everybody can take a moment to check in on their alignment, and it benefits everybody in the class. So um, we never single anybody out for sure.
Yeah. No, I know, but like teachers have sometimes said, make sure your leg is 90 degrees, like if you're lunging, and then just makes you think, is my leg at 90 degrees? And you don't know who they were talking to, but yeah, you're
Right.
right. Like everybody benefits from that reinforcement. What's my next question? Okay, you mentioned able-bodied people, being able to do chair yoga. That was something, or doing chair yoga. You mentioned that earlier. Is but and that leads me kind of to a topic. Is yoga something that anybody can do, even if they have injuries, or is there certain types of yoga that people should avoid? Because you specifically mentioned the chair yoga with the elderly and stuff, so that's why I ask.
So, always we're going to encourage, just like any other uh, program that involves physical movement, be encouraged to talk to your doctor
Mhm.
and be cleared if there's any question of that. It's really interesting because and I feel like we'll have this teased out and more beautifully constructed and a great framework for this in the upcoming years. But doctors will say, you know what, you need to do yoga. And then they send somebody to a yoga studio or, but they don't talk to the yoga instructors or, it's interesting because we don't, and then we'll say, so why did well, I hurt my back. And then we can ask, where did you hurt your back? Was it your lumbar spine? Was it your thoracic spine? Was it your cervical spine? Well, I'm not really sure.
Hmm.
Most people know where it hurts, but they're not sure at what level, and then the extent of the damage, or what they would like for them to do. So I feel like I'm getting a lot of, I'm hearing a lot of conversation in the yoga community, Yoga Alliance, talking about connecting, our Western medicine and yoga better. So we really can serve people, and working in both sides, because I work in Western medicine and I teach yoga, I really think that I hear a lot of conversation happening, and I do feel like it will come together. And honestly, I think that's the future of medicine in general, is
Hmm.
going to have a holistic component,
Hmm.
in order for it to be accessible, for more people. So I think that was probably a non-answer. I'm sorry. It's just a good opportunity for me to talk about that mix that's on the horizon,
No,
and
it
or
helped.
in progress. Um, but I do feel like every body is a yoga body, and especially because we do have practices like restorative, where we really can, if we know what's going on with your body, help you rest into a posture that will allow you to stretch but not injure yourself.
Hmm.
So certainly we have the same goals of doing no harm. It's
Hmm.
really interesting. That's an oath that medical providers
Hmm.
take, to first do no harm. And there are 8 limbs to yoga, when you study, and the very first part of the very first limb is ahimsa, which is non-harming. So it's non-harming to yourself and non-harming to others. It's the very first tenet of yoga. Is the very same that we take in medicine. So we would want people to be cleared. We do find that we can work with the chair as a prop really well with a lot of populations. It's difficult to teach 2 different classes at once. So if somebody needs a chair and I'm teaching a vinyasa, it's a big challenge. I'm learning how to do that better on the fly. But if somebody is unable to stand for a period of time, they can still get a good workout and good stretch in a chair, for sure.
Okay. Okay. Good to know.
Yeah, and we still follow the same, connecting the breath and the movement. So you
Hmm.
still get that same mind body connection, and the bridge, of the breath to connect.
So the other question I had is, you said you're a mobile yoga instructor. What does that mean? Meaning, where can you go? What types of places will you go? Who will you go to? And what will you do when you get there?
So, I don't really have a limit on my mileage, but of course, the further I go, the more amount of time, it is for me to get there. It might affect pricing structure.
Yeah.
The most recent, uh, well, I do some regular stuff. For example, I teach a group of high school teachers once a week in Manassas, so that's not too far. It's teachers. I bring my mats if they need them. I have blocks. I have cleaner. I have supplies. I also teach a group of a private volleyball club. I'm teaching them
Oh.
tonight, and so that's to enhance their sport. They're incorporating yoga to deepen their strength and their flexibility and their mindfulness.
Hmm.
So I bring mats, I bring blocks, which, if you're not familiar, yoga blocks are just
Hmm.
blocks to bring the ground a little bit closer to you. So if you can't touch the ground, you can put the block there and deepen your stretch. Um, I bring cleaner and whatever else would be needed.
Hmm.
I went out to Aldi, um, say 2 weeks ago, for a bachelorette yoga, which was kind of
Oh,
fun. A group of women, they were lovely, rented a cabin, an Airbnb up in the mountains in Aldi, and they asked me to come and do a morning yoga session while they were there. So while they were getting their coffee. I was setting up mats and blocks and cleaning supplies and everything that they needed for practice. And we had a beautiful practice. It was so much fun. So I think that's probably the farthest I've gone. Hamilton,
Mm.
Aldi are probably the farthest that I've gone in, and it's been less than a year, so
Well, yeah.
um,
But I
but
mean, you go to homes and you go to businesses too. And
sure.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
So people, I'm sorry, go on.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I think, I've put it out there. I know that I'm a nurse who teaches yoga. So in terms of business, this is the first time I've ever done this. I cast that wide net, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I often hear you need to find your niche, you need to find your niche, you need to find your niche. Um, and that really hasn't quite happened yet because I'm grateful to be able to share whatever people need,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it'll uh, you know just land and arrive and announce itself, but it hasn't quite yet, because I'm grateful that I've studied and been trained to teach different styles that I can share what I can meet the needs of what people are looking for.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's awesome. Now, how can people get in touch with you to schedule either a one-on-one or a group session?
So I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I have not started a Blue Sky, but I should be there shortly. And I also have uh, a Ubindi account. That's what I do my scheduling with if somebody wants to schedule something regularly with me. And I'm currently actually doing a raffle on my Ubindi. If you sign up to be my student on Ubindi, then you'll be automatically entered into a raffle for couples yoga, a free couples yoga, and the drawing is on the 10th. I can my that link is on my Instagram for the website and on my Facebook page.
Okay, awesome.
So if you sign up to be my student too, I send out weekly emails because I do a theme every week and carry that in throughout the practices. And then I do a write up about the theme and um, offer some insight and then my schedule for the next week if I have any events coming up.
Okay, cool. Now, is there anything else you want to leave everybody with before we end the video? Like anything about yoga or your practice or what you teach that we didn't talk about?
Um, well, I hope that what I usually tell people is when they hire me and I'm meeting usually a group of new people and some often they're first time practitioners is that pressure's off.
Mhm.
You don't have to be perfect at this. I am not a size zero, and I actually can't even sit in a cross-legged seat well because of the shape of my pelvis. It's just how it is. It's okay. So if you've ever considered it and had some reservations because of whatever age or size or flex, people say, I can't even touch my toes. That's not the point. You just gotta, I'll show you how to bend your knees. You'll get there.
Mhm.
If you have reservations, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you if you have interest, because I really think that with the variety of styles that I teach, there's really something for everybody.
Mhm. Well, that is definitely a good way to end it. That was perfect. Now I always forget to tell people, Trisha, when I end the live video, you and I will still be here, so you don't have to X out the screen. We can chat for a
Okay.
second. I know you have a volleyball team to coach, but thank you, or teach, not coach. Thank you everybody for watching and for the people
Yes.
that liked it and commented, and I really appreciate it. And if you have any questions for Trisha, follow her Instagram and Facebook, and you can type questions in the chat if you see this later, and we can get them answered for you. So thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you next time.
Thank you. Thanks, Jean.